Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Anne-Marie Kanata McEwen here on this Sunday, September the 23rd, 2018, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, your weekend dose of happy. And we hope that you've been having a great weekend. We've been having a great weekend around here, and you'll be hearing a little bit about that for the next couple minutes. But I just want to, I've been trying to make it a point, Anne-Marie, and by the way, hello. I didn't mean to just ignore you. How you doing? Hello.
Hello. Yes, hello, Walt. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Well, you're a regular now, so of course we have you on. But what I was trying to lead up to before I forgot my manners was I've been really focusing on the idea that we need to be in that good feeling place, and it's a message that I'm trying very specifically to put out at the beginning of every podcast. And I think it's everything, everybody who is a deliberate creator knows that. I mean, if you have any exposure to Abraham Hicks or any of the other gurus of the law of attraction, you have to be in that high vibration place, right, in order to attract what you most
Absolutely.
want in your life. But we need the reminder. And that's why I want to do that. I want to make sure that we're reminded every single day just how valuable it is to be in that good place. Not just because of what we can attract, but because that's where life happens. That's where the good stuff happens. And it's so easy to slip off of that, It's so easy to slip into all the negative thinking and, replaying the old tapes and all that kind of stuff. So, it's good to have a reminder that life is good. Life has our back. We're in good shape. Everything's going to work out,
Absolutely. I have a little daily calendar that sits on my kitchen table, and every day I tear off a page, and it has some sort of an affirmation and usually a pretty picture that reminds me about something good. And even if that thing is not applicable, like, my pets love me or something like that, and it's just not applicable because I don't have pets, it still reminds me that there's good things happening in my life, and I just have to look for the good.
It's so easy, too, to get caught in the other, but I love how more and more people are taking the time, particularly in social media, to post stuff, to share stuff that's warm-hearted and fun and lighthearted and so forth. Like today, Louise shared something to me via Facebook. I don't know where she got it from, but it was a video. It was really funny, too. It was a video of cats and mice, and not what you might think. The mice were winning. You'd have a cat playing with a mouse, and the mouse didn't like it too much, so the mouse would try to bite the cat, and the cat would jump back. Like, whoa, what just happened here? You had
that's funny.
Videos of cats and mice sleeping together. There was one with a guinea pig that was chasing a cat around the house. That was really funny. That was hysterical. I mean, the poor cat couldn't get away from the guinea pig. But
wow.
I mean, just kind of flipping stuff around. And of course, the best one. The best one was the mama cat who was feeding her 6 or 7 kittens with a mouse sitting on top of her head.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
No, that's just one example, of course. There are lots of different kinds of videos and shares and so forth, images out there. But I just love the fact that there's so much of that stuff out that people are sharing on their own because they want to share something that's lighthearted and that feels good and that points out the good side of life,
Absolutely. And I think we need to do more and more of that.
We do. Which is actually you do it every day. I mean, that's one of the main things that you're doing with the Buttonwood every single day. The Arts Center obviously is about arts, but nevertheless, I mean, you don't ever bring anything in that's like designed to make people feel depressed. Right?
No. We focus on the positive. We focus on uplifting people, and that's probably a little unusual for an art center because we really curate it towards that. But we're so limited in our space and limited in our time that I have to focus on something. So that's what I decided to focus on, and fortunately, everybody has been behind that, except for there's been a few musicians or a few artists who didn't really like that and thought that was, not the way to go for an art center. But considering the percentage, which is like maybe 0.5% of the people who did not agree with that, and it's overwhelmingly, I get really good feedback from people saying that they really appreciate having a center or a venue that does focus on the positive and uplifting people and sharing love and just bringing more light to the world and to our community. So, we just need to do that more and more and more. And that's the role I'm playing.
Yeah. Well, considering that you can't you can't satisfy all the people all the time. 99.5% satisfaction rate is pretty darn good. I mean,
I think so too, Walt.
It really is. I mean, when I think about like our customer base with Louise's gardening services business, we're somewhere around 90-95%. We're happy with that. That's a really good percentage. But 99.5, that's up there.
Well, it's not scientific, but that's just, that's where about it is. So at least in my mind, talking to people, emailing, all these things, I deal with a lot of musicians, a lot of artists over the 10 years I've been doing this. And, it just feels good. It feels good to focus on the positive and lift each other up and get that kind of positive feedback. So I really appreciate it.
And I can tell you that as a former musician myself, I know how difficult it is to find musicians who are going to emphasize positivity. I mean, you look at popular music in general, and you don't find a whole lot of positive lyrics. So, I mean, you're going to be more likely perhaps to find them in the alternative world, which is kind of where you delve into. But nevertheless, that's quite a feat. Musicians, I mean, what plays well in terms of, popularity? It's, my girlfriend left me. It's terrible things happened. It's just like one negative story after another. That's the stuff that sells, right? Well, apparently not.
Well, there's a lot of that out there anyway, especially with a lot of the younger people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot a lot of the blues, a lot of country music is like that.
Yep.
They're still complaining and stuff. And
oh, yeah.
But, a lot of what we do too is instrumentals. We do a lot of jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's easy because it's pretty much uplifting just because it's just beautiful music and there are no lyrics.
Yeah, instrumental is always safer because that way it's just the key that you're playing in. If it's a minor key, it's a little bit sad. If it's a major key, it's happy. So, you got a 50-50 chance, right?
Right. Right. That's right. Yeah, and there are some jazz musicians that I say, I don't really like that music. No,
well, jazz is actually a little bit difficult because jazz doesn't play in either major or minor keys. Well, it does, but it has so many incidental notes that 3/4 of the time you can't tell whether it's major or minor because it's got both kinds of notes in there, right? So it could be either one. Take your pick.
Yeah. And I don't really know. I don't know that much about music. I just know what I like,
mm-hmm.
what's pleasing to the ear, and it's not even sometimes about what I like. Sometimes it's just, is this really good music, and will it bring people in who want to be uplifted and will find this uplifting or encouraging or inspiring or educational or something like that. It doesn't have to be about me personally, but, I do try to bring in quality music.
Which is, a
so
big
maybe
part
we
right
should,
there.
and maybe we should tell people where we're talking about. I know you mentioned briefly the Buttonwood, but, for those of you who might be tuning in new or haven't heard us talking before, the Buttonwood Tree Performing Arts Center is on Main Street, Middletown.
Middletown, Connecticut, by the way, since we're worldwide.
That's right, Middletown, Connecticut. That's
USA.
Right. There are lots of Middletowns around.
There certainly are, yes.
And you can find us on the World Wide Web at buttonwood.org.
Buttonwood.org.
So
there it is.
You have it.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's quite a unique place you got there, too. I mean, I have seen other kinds of alternative cultural arts centers. Yours is definitely its own unique animal. So, I mean, it's worth it for somebody. And plus, you actually will often put a live recording on Facebook, while an act is playing, so people can be following you and periodically check into Facebook and hear the latest guitar duo that's playing or whatever it is.
That's right. In fact, last night we had two singer-songwriters, and they brought with them a violinist who happened to play years ago with Loggins and Messina.
Oh my!
You remember them?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. His name was Gary. Gary Olar. At first time I had met him, I didn't even know he was coming, and there he is, and playing amazing violin, just beautiful violin. So I did a lot of Facebook Live last night and put it up on our Facebook page, the Buttonwood Tree Facebook page. So so take a look at it. It was really some nice music.
Which proves that you get more than just run-of-the-mill talent. You get some pretty good talent coming through there.
We do. It's surprisingly good. And like last night, sometimes people show up, I don't even know that they were coming. It was such a surprise.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, great.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah, actually, Kenny Loggins has two of my favorite songs of all time that he created. So yeah, you picked a good act there to draw a violinist from.
Yeah, well, I didn't even pick it. That was, I picked the two singer-songwriters.
Yeah, right. They picked them, right?
And they picked, yeah. Well, you just never know, but
that's very cool.
But it's always good. It's always good, yes. So, and even though life throws us surprises sometimes, I think when you expect the best, you get the best. And I was telling somebody earlier today, I said, well, something had happened, and I said, well, you got to just look for the blessing in it. Look for the silver lining. Look for the good part about that, because there's always something. There's always something. I remember now. She was saying that she was going to go to school, but she was going to go to school outside. She had to go to school about maybe 20 minutes away in a different town, and she doesn't drive, which means she was going to be on a bus for a long time. And I said, well, hey, time to read, time to dream, or just time to meditate and relax. It's you time. And she's like, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, why not?
So you just have to look at things in a way that is positive and constructive, and don't look at the situation as negative. And sometimes it's really horrible situations that surprise us in life, or that just, happen in life. And no matter what it is, I find in my own life anyway, I look for the blessing in it. And I don't necessarily focus on why did this happen? Why did this happen? But I say, where's the blessing in this? And when you look for it, you will find it. I guarantee you will find it. And it may not be immediately. It may take years. But if you keep looking for that blessing, you will find it. And oftentimes you realize, wow, my life's a lot better because that thing happened, And we might have called it bad back then, but now you realize, oh, it was a blessing.
Sure.
So,
well, that's a key portion of the topic for the day. I mean, the topic, actually, you and I came up with the topic with about 30 seconds left before we had to start the show. But that's part of the fun, right? But we picked it up off of Joel Elston's Facebook feed, where he picked up a meme that said, either you run the day or the day runs you. Well, choosing to focus on the happiness, choosing to focus on the feel-good stuff and doing it deliberately, that's a key a key part of running your own day, and rather than having the day run you. Because if you let the day run you, that's basically where you're letting everything that comes at you, including all the negative stuff that you typically have in your life, run you. And that's going to lead to bad results no matter how you slice that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm sure you do some version of this too, but the best way to do it is to just start out in the morning before you even get out of bed and focus on what you want to accomplish that day, or just focus on the positive. Sometimes we just list things that we're grateful for, things that we're appreciative of, and things that take us to those blissful moments, and just spend as much time as we can feeling blissful about what's in our life, and then from there, we think about, okay, well, how do I want the day to go? And what do I have to accomplish today? And try to pre-pave it that way, right from that point. And then when I'm really being good, I'll utilize like segment intending, where before you go to do each little part of it, you make a sort of a positive statement about what you want to accomplish. And I guess for me, the time that I do that the most consistently is when I get into a car and I put my seatbelt on. I'll make a statement like, I'm a safe driver, and usually it's just that simple. I'm a safe driver, but sometimes I'll think further and say, especially if it's a long trip, I'll think, oh, I'm going to have a really good trip. This is going to go really well. I'm going to get to see lots of interesting things, something like that. And I'll just sort of pre-pave it that way. But, Abraham Hicks talks about pre-paving every part of your life, every segment of your life, whether it be a phone call. And sometimes I'll do it for phone calls too, especially if it's somebody who I don't really want to talk to, or there's some sort of issue going on, or it's a difficult topic or something that we're going to be talking about. I'll just pause before I take that phone call, and I'll say, okay, this is going to go really well. This is going to go exactly how I want it to go. And then I'll take the phone call. and more likely than not, it goes far better than I had expected or than it would have had I not made that positive intention. I'm sure you see this in your life too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you about the value of segment intending, and in fact, when it comes to doing like the morning kind of exercises, it might varies from day to day what I do. I don't have a particular pattern, partly because I found that I just don't do patterns real well. I do much better when I mix it up, but we'll also, throughout the day, we'll try to make it a point to notice when we need to focus on stuff. Like you mentioned, when you get into a car. Yesterday, Louise and I got in a car to drive to Rhode Island to visit her family. Her brother was celebrating a birthday, an important milestone, actually, in the birthday stream, so to speak. And on the way, now Louise has been having kind of a tough time lately in some respects where the business is concerned. So she really needed to take her mind off of stuff. And she said, okay, I don't remember exactly how she phrased it, but, I need some help getting out of this funk. That was the gist of it. And so the first thought that came to my mind was, so what's going right in your life? That's always, for me, like one of the best questions you can ask. What's going right? Because we tend to think about what's going wrong, right? That's how we get into the funk in the first place. But if you focus on what's going right, all of a sudden your entire mindset changes. And she knows the game, so she instantly started coming out with all these things that are going right around this trip. It was good weather. We're going to go see family. A long list started to come out almost instantly. And within about, I'd say 2 minutes, I think she had forgotten why it was that we were doing this. She was just in a happy place, that's ideal.
That's great.
That's the ideal thing, because when you've gotten into that run of feel-good stuff to the point where you forgot why you were even doing the run in the first place, that means you made that complete, you've made the shift, right? You've pivoted completely the way you need to pivot.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
And we do the same thing at night too, by the way. We have a little routine that we call 3 good things. And it isn't always 3. Sometimes it's 3, 5, 6, 2, 4. I mean, it varies. But the idea is to go through the day and try to identify at least 3 things that went right that day. Especially on those days when it seems like everything went wrong. And we've all had those days, right? Where it seems like everything went wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And the funny thing is, when you play the game and you try to name what all those 3 things are, or even come up with 3 things, once you come up with the first one, it's like it breaks through a barrier, and you say to yourself, I didn't realize anything went wrong. Went right today. I didn't realize anything went right. I thought everything went wrong. And then you come up with a second one, and like, oh my God, there was another one. And there was another one. Oh, and there was another one. And it just, again, it does that shift. You pivot over to the good feeling place just by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of opportunities throughout the day to feel good and to especially do it when you're not feeling good. That's what I've been trying to train myself to do anyway. I've been trying to train myself to recognize when I'm not in a good space, when something is not going right, when I'm not feeling good about it, and then to stop and take a moment, take a breath, literally take a breath, and then and then try to focus on that segment intending. Try to figure out, okay, how do I want the next few minutes of the life to go? Mm-hmm. And when you do that,
and that's great. And it's at that point when I often will employ laughter yoga, because it's at that point when I can stop myself. Because sometimes we're frustrated, we're angry, or mad, or we're overwhelmed, or whatever it is, and we don't stop ourselves. We just stay in that feeling of frustration or overwhelmment for a long time. It's recognizing that you're in it and being willing to change. And, I've been studying the law of attraction long enough now. It's been about, 17 years maybe, that I know without a doubt, without a moment of hesitation, that I have to get out of it. Once I recognize it, I know I have to get out of it. And this is where deep breathing really helps. I like that. You're absolutely right. Deep breathing helps. And then a lot of times I will just laugh, and it does not always come out sounding good initially, but laughter, for me really helps.
Yeah.
it just breaks that whole energy. It just breaks it, and it changes it and helps me get into a much better feeling place.
Fortunately, there are almost never judges over on the sidelines holding cards that say 7, 8, 4, 6, 9,
Thank goodness for that. That's right. Although I have had some of my staff, I've heard them say from the other side of the room, they can't actually see me, but they can hear me, and they go, are you okay?
Are you okay? Yeah. They're coming to take me away.
That's right. So anyway, it's a tricky life we lead. You know, there's so many lessons we have to learn and so much contrast that we have to experience. And
it's funny. Abraham has like a number of different processes they teach for helping you get back into that good feeling place. The two that I am most cognizant of in my day-to-day life are the pivot and the bridge. Pivoting being where you're in a negative place, you need to get to a positive place, so you try to find a silver lining to start going in that direction, and then you just keep finding more and more good things to get over there. Bridging, where you're having trouble getting there, you're having trouble even seeing what the positive side looks like. So you find something else that it's a little bit closer to home, a little bit closer distance. It's not like a big shift; it's a little tiny shift, and then you do it little tiny steps along the way. Or you focus on something that's not related to whatever it is that's driving you nuts. Something that you can easily get to that feels good, and then you stay there for a while in that good feeling place by just thinking about it or talk about it, and enjoying it, remembering, recollecting recent events in it, whatever it might be. And then once you've been there for a while, then try to go back to the original topic, the one that was giving you so much trouble, and try to do a pivot then. That kind of bridging is where you basically get yourself into a better emotional place so you can see what the better emotional place for that situation is. Makes it easier when you're doing that.
Yeah. I probably would forget where I was originally going if I did that.
Well, that might be a good thing because if you're struggling to get there in the first place, this may actually kind of skip over the struggle. So forgetting might actually be a good thing.
And that's one of the lessons that Abraham teaches is that sometimes if you have so much resistance about a subject, just go off of it. Don't even think about it.
Yep.
And that's when a lot of times that's why people say, oh, I wasn't even looking for love and it showed up, or I wasn't even looking for something and it showed up. That's because you already had put the desire out there, but you had so much resistance about it, you kept blocking it.
Yep.
And once you stop thinking about it, now it can come.
Another way that they often describe it is by calling it going general, right? It's basically the same concept as the bridging, but it's just labeled differently. Go general. In other words, don't focus so much on the specifics of what your particular situation is. Just go to what feels good generally. Because that's usually a lot easier to get to when you're focusing generally. It's the specific time that we start saying, well, there's this, there's that, and there's this and that thing, and that's where we start nitpicking it, right?
Right. That's exactly true. Yeah.
So when we're going through our day, and our day, again, this is all about us running our day or the day running you. I mean, we've all been through the days where the days run you, right? That's like a fairly common experience, particularly among those of us who are not deliberate creators. Many of us are just kind of stuck into that realm of, well, it's another Monday, it's just another Monday, and then everything's going to go wrong, Well, that's the day running you. And days run people all the time. You see it on the highway, during rush hours and so forth. Well, actually, I don't see it in rush hours because I don't drive rush hours anymore. But when I was driving in rush hours, you saw it all the time. Yeah. You would see, you got the road ragers and you got the people vying for position, and it's just like, you can practically see the teeth gnashing going on. So those people, everybody who is driving in a rush, who is in that kind of super competitive mode, they're in the mode of the day running you, because their whole approach is, well, I got to rush to get there. I got to push. No time to actually center yourself. No time to actually get into a place that feels good. Work isn't about feeling good. It's about working hard, right? Working hard and crack the whip and get it all done. Nose to the grindstone. Basically, a method that doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. And I know that from personal experience. I know it doesn't work because I went through it for 35 years. And I can promise you it doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, sometimes some people get through it. Some people actually succeed that way, but they also end up with ulcers and health problems, and they die young, and their families are alienated from themselves because all they're interested in is just work.
That's right. And I think part of my goal anyway in life is to not just be not stressed, but to my stress or my frustrations or whatever in a healthy manner so that I don't get sick, because you don't want to hold these things in. You don't want to hold your frustrations or your anger, you want to let them go, you want to release them, but you want to release them in a healthy way.
Yes, very true. Because if you do that, you don't get sick very often. In fact, if you do it consistently enough, you won't get sick at all. Which is really interesting. I mean, it's not our typical experience. It's not what most people experience. But for those of us who have practiced staying in that positive zone and intentionally thinking and believing and acting and talking and doing from the positive place, that kind of person doesn't get sick very often. Abraham Hicks talks about it. They say that all sickness originates from a thought that leads to sickness. And it isn't that you're necessarily thinking about getting sick. It's any time that you're thinking about stuff or talking about stuff that doesn't feel good, that basically is in your negative zone, so to speak. And when you do that, you're setting yourself up.
Right. You're out of balance is how I like to look at it. You're just out of balance.
So if you balance...
To me, that's a big...
Balance is the same thing as alignment,
that's a big point. Yes. Balance is, balance is alignment, yes. And when you're out of balance, you're out of alignment. Because you're leaning too much to one direction or one side. Mm-hmm. And maybe, you've got the volume turned up too much or the volume turned down too little.
And if you're somebody like me who never understood what the whole alignment thing was all about, there's a really easy translation. When you're in alignment or in balance, you're feeling good. When you're out of alignment or out of balance, you're not feeling good. So it's just how you feel. If you're feeling good, you're good. If you're not feeling good, time to shift.
There you go. That's a simple way of looking at it. That's very effective. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I like simplifying things because otherwise, I mean, literally, Anne-Marie, I took years trying to figure out what the hell they were talking about when they talked about alignment. I had no clue what that meant. So how do I know if I'm in alignment? Yeah. What do I do? Do I stand up and see if I'm standing up straight? That's what I thought. I didn't know.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, my back feels pretty good. Maybe I don't need an adjustment or something. So if I don't need an adjustment, maybe I'm in alignment. I don't know.
I remember years ago, I was trying to convince this friend of mine about the vortex and about being aligned and what being in the vortex is all about. And I kept using the word vortex. And it was when Abraham had come out with the phrase, it was like a relatively new phrase. And, he said, well, I just want to see something tangible. I just want to see some kind of proof that this is what you're talking about and this is real. And I was on a long drive and I wound up coming back and I had been listening to an Abraham CD in the car, and I wasn't even thinking about it. It's kind of like what we were just talking about. I wasn't thinking about it, but I started driving it, and I came around a turn, and there was the side of a building, and it had to be like 6 stories high. The painting on the side of the building just said vortex.
Really?
And I started laughing. Yes. I was like, what? It says vortex on that building. I can't believe it says vortex. Like, why the heck does it say vortex? There wasn't even like an ad, like there were other words around it that would explain why it said vortex. It just said vortex. And I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, oh my goodness, there it is. Vortex, plain as day. It's there in black and white.
Now, was there a visual image too? Was there like a picture of some kind of a vortex, or was it just the word?
No, it was just the word.
Just the word. That's really wild.
Just the word. Yeah. I was like, well, there's the vortex in physicalness, but my friend wasn't with me. And I had driven by it so fast I couldn't take a picture. So I just had to tell him about it.
Well, I have to say, vortex threw me too. That was another one of those terms. Abraham tends to come up with these metaphorical words that you have to know what the explanation is. Otherwise, when they're using them in their workshops and so forth, you don't have a clue what they're talking about. So when I first heard about the vortex, I had a kind of a sense of this whirling around thing, but I didn't know what the heck it meant. All I knew was that they were confusing the heck out of me, and I was hoping that I'd get some sort of clarity as time went on. And eventually, I learned what the vortex was, but even when I learned what it was, like your friend, I couldn't visualize it. What the hell does it look like? In fact, the first time I actually got a sense of what the vortex really was, that was a tangible, visceral kind of, I can see it or feel it sense, was when I saw Esther Hicks at a workshop voicing Abraham, and saying the word vortex, and to her right, she was swirling her hand in a swirl, like a whirlwind or a vortex. And I said, I know where the vortex now is. It's next to Esther. now I know where the vortex is. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
But it did throw me. It really did throw me. But the point is that it doesn't really matter what we call this stuff. I mean, we call it the stuff like vortex and the various terminologies that Esther Hicks uses when she's voicing Abraham, simply because that's what she uses. But even if we use just simple everyday terms, it doesn't really matter which terminology we're using. What matters is, are we going to use it in our day? Because if we use it in our day, if we're deliberate creators, that means we're deliberately using it throughout our day. And we're doing it because we understand and believe that it's going to make a difference in our lives. And the nice thing is we can discover that fairly quickly. I mean, we may not be attracting exactly, that new Ferrari may not have shown up in the driveway yet, right? But just by getting into that good feeling place, the day goes better. And that's how we know that it's working, just because it feels better.
Right. I say all the time, and people say, how are you doing? I say, great, I'm doing great. And even if I wasn't doing great before, just saying that I'm doing great makes me feel better and helps me to be feeling great. So I just keep getting better and better the more I go on with my day, because I keep telling myself I'm getting better, and things just show up. Your parking spaces show up, and things that you want to go to the grocery store and buy, they're on sale, and everything just keeps getting better and better. And you just have to pre-plan it and pre-program it and expect that things are going to work out your way. And they just do so much more than you'd ever imagine. It's
funny that you mention saying, how's your day going, and answering, in a positive form. And the reason I say that is interesting is because I have a long history of answering that sarcastically, or in some way that is backhanded positive, like more negative than positive, but it has a positive intent, but it came out negative, that kind of thing. And as I have become more and more aware over time of how important it is to take control of the day by focusing and by communicating the way I want to, I am finding myself more and more stopping myself. Somebody asks me, how's your day going? And I start to say something and I stop, and I realize that, nope, that's negative. And I go to the next thing, and nope, that's negative too. And go to the next, meanwhile, the person's standing there waiting for me to say something, and my mouth is going, but I'm having to go, I'm working through the process. There's got to be a positive way to express what's going on right now. And, sometimes I can only come out with, well, it's going with the way it goes, and that's certainly better than what it was before, so that's an improvement. But, if I don't get it right every time, that's okay. The main thing is I'm stopping myself each time, and I am redirecting and saying, you know what, I may not be able to get to that positive framing, but I'm getting closer. I'm getting better at it each time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it actually comes out. Sometimes it actually comes out right. My day's going great,
Yeah. You just have to, when you make those attempts to do that, that's training yourself, and you're just going to get better and better and better at it. That's just the way it goes. Right. Practice makes perfect,
it
right?
It does. Yeah. Some of us need more practice than others. That's all.
This is true.
Some of us take more time.
Practice at something.
Well, yeah, that's true.
We're all learning, whether we want to really accept the challenge of the learn or of the lesson. Some don't. Some don't want to learn. Some just want to stay where they're at. But I would bet you, as my mother used to say, dollars to donuts.
Dollars to donuts.
Anybody listening to the podcast is willing to learn and wants to learn. And that's a great thing. For me, I'm just like an avid learner. I just want to keep learning and learning.
I think so. Well, hopefully also they're tuning in because they want to have fun. I mean, this is our daily dose of happy, right? So we are supposed to be having fun, and we try to, and we laugh a lot. So that's how I know we're having fun. But yeah, we want both. Yeah. We want both. We want to enjoy it, and we want to learn from it. That's actually the best of both worlds. Right. In fact,
absolutely.
In fact, Louis D'Souza and I last week were talking about it, and how that is a concept direct out of the Richard Bach's books. Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions, and won a number of different books that were all dealing with spiritual and metaphysical ideas, postulated the idea in the book Illusions that everything that we do in life can be broken down to one of two things, either learning or having fun, or some combination thereof. And if you go through every possible thing that you can do, you actually can put them into one of those two categories. It's really quite interesting.
I've never really looked at it like that. I'd have to examine my life to see if that happens. But I think I'd be pretty good at that. I mean, most of what I would do would be falling into, because I love to learn. So, but I don't know, Walt. I don't know. When I'm filling out, like, for example, doing a grant report, that's a tough one. That's not really learning, although I could say I'm learning how to do better grant reports, but I tell you, it's not really fun.
Well, you're also learning what you don't like, and you're reinforcing it.
Well, that's true. I guess that's true. That's true. I am reinforcing that I don't like it, but.
And you're also learning.
On the other hand,
you're also learning too, because you're learning how basically you're giving the opportunity to learn how to reframe the experience, because you do have the opportunity.
Yeah.
You can choose to keep feeling miserable about it each time, or you can choose to learn how to reframe it. And learning to reframe it is much more difficult, as Wendy Dillard very clearly pointed out to me this past week through example, because I was having trouble reframing some stuff. But nevertheless, the opportunities are always there. And so it's a learning experience. That's true.
That's true. And actually, each report that I do, I learn how to do them better and better. Mm-hmm. So it is I guess it would be educational too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of what I do is, like you said, either educational or fun.
Not that there are no other
both
categories, but it's interesting how you really can find one or the other or both at play in everything. It really is true in every situation, even in those situations that we don't like. If for no other reason than because we're learning that we don't like that.
Right. That's right. That's
and reinforcing it. So,
yep.
What's your? I mean, you already mentioned doing a morning routine, but and you also mentioned segment intending. But are there any particular things that you try to do throughout your day to take control of your day instead of having your day take control of you?
Well, I think that one of the things that I do pretty often is I look to see how I can be of service to another person. And I think that in that desire and in that action of doing that, it helps me to feel better and helps me to feel like I'm having a purpose, and it helps me to feel satisfied, and it just feels good. So by doing those things and looking for those opportunities, that helps my day go better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can identify with that because I have a similar streak in me that makes me want to do the podcast. The podcast for me is my big way to be of service to others. And I don't really think of it as being of service. That to me, that's a little bit stilted. But nevertheless, I want to help other people. And I guess that pretty much amounts to the same thing. So I can definitely appreciate that. Because there's a satisfaction in it. I've asked myself, what is it that's so satisfying about it? I don't really know. I just know that it is. I mean, do you have any idea why do you enjoy being of service to other people?
Well, I think that deep down I'm a teacher, and I love to teach people, and I love to help people be their best and connect with their divine inner spark, that spark that lives inside each of us. And when you can connect with that, that's really powerful. And that's basically what being in alignment is. And I found from years ago, I had a very traumatic experience happen to me, and I vowed from that moment on to help people recognize that divine spark within them and realize how powerful the creative force is inside of them. And whether you want to call it source or a universal intelligence or God or creator or whatever, there's some kind of intelligence that lives within inside of us. And when you can connect with that and you're in alignment with that, well, that's when everything good happens.
This is true.
I found that when I can help other people get there, it's just extremely satisfying for me. It lifts me up and makes me feel ecstatic.
Yeah.
And makes me feel joyful.
Yeah, exactly. I know that's a good description right there, because that's how I feel like whenever we get a message from one of our listeners. Somebody will send a text message or an email, or they'll post something on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, some sort of message that, or maybe they call into the show, which is even better. But anytime that happens, I get this warm glow inside. Like, oh, wow, another listener called in. I am so excited. This is great. Because it reinforces for me. Well, first of all, I mean, I've talked about this before. When Louise and I started this podcast, 6 years ago this month, actually, it was 0 listeners, right? And now we've got hundreds of listeners listening to every single episode. I mean, we actually are reaching a new record this week. We're now up to the point where we're averaging 200 listeners per episode, which is really cool. And I just think about that and I say, wow, this is great. But then I get a contact from somebody who's listening and they're talking about, they like this particular episode or that particular co-host or something. And it just feels so good. Like, oh, wow, we have listeners. This is so good.
Right. Because you're reaching people, and that's what we want to do. We want to reach people.
Exactly. Yeah. It makes me want to reach more of them too. I should actually put in the promo right about now. While I'm thinking about it, because we do want to encourage people who are new listeners who have not yet become a subscriber to take a moment and become a subscriber, because it's really easy to do. No matter what kind of device you have, it's really simple. If you're on an iPhone or an iPad, you just go to the podcast app that's built into your iPhone, open it up, do a little search for LOA Today. We'll pop right up, hit the subscribe button, and now you're a subscriber. And if you're on an Android type device, similar procedure, except you have to install some podcast software first, unless you already have some. But if you haven't installed a podcast app, just go to the Play Store and you can find all kinds of podcast apps there. And then just install that, open it up, do a search, and there we are. All the instructions are right on the homepage. If you've forgotten that, what I just described to you, just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net, and all the instructions are there. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, one of the reasons we have so many people listening to each episode now is that many of our listeners have been posting regularly about the fact that they're listening to loatoday.net. So please keep doing that, and if you haven't done it, please do it some more. The more that we keep doing that, more people find us. And so not only does Walt get his jollies because he gets more listeners, but now we have more people who are actually getting, support on their daily dose of happy. And I just keep imagining, Anne-Marie, what happens when we start reaching tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people getting their daily dose of happy. Can you imagine how much impact that has on the daily life on Earth? I mean, it staggers my imagination. I can't even begin to imagine how big that's going to be. But I know you get that many people getting good feeling stuff every day, you're bound to have amazing stuff happen.
Absolutely. And, the whole theory about the 100 monkeys. So if we get more people being happy, it's just going to take off like wildfire, and we're going to have a happy society one day.
It's getting happier now. It's getting happier now. It's already happening.
Oh yeah.
Which is cool.
Oh yeah,
It's
it
so much
is.
fun.
But I can't say that the majority of people are happy, though. I don't think so yet.
Not yet. But we're getting there.
Headed in that direction.
Oh,
yeah.
No doubt at all. I mean, certainly there's plenty of stuff to make people upset. The political world and the world of news, much of entertainment. I mean, there are lots of opportunities to be upset about stuff, or even in personal lives. People who are going through rough relationships or bad health situations or not enough money or whatever it might be. There are lots of opportunities to feel bad in life, and they continue because we live in a world of contrast. But the great news is more and more people are recognizing it. We talked about earlier how many people are posting on social media, sharing stuff that's just fun, lighthearted stuff. What better indicator than we need than that? That the fact that more and more people are sharing that kind of thing. That's the clue right there.
Great.
Now, one other thing I got to do before I forget, I want to let everybody know that next Friday and next Sunday, those shows are going to be canceled because Louise and I are headed to North Carolina to see our niece's wedding. My 21-year-old niece, Michaela, is getting married. And it's hard to believe. I mean, Louise and I got married 19 years ago. At age 2, she was our flower girl. Now here she is getting married. But
that's so sweet.
Yeah, it just shows how the march of life continues. And it's going to be great, too, because we're also going to get a chance to see my family for the first time in almost 5 years since we moved back to Connecticut. So it's going to be good for us, but it means that there will be 3 episodes missing next week. So if you're looking for episodes, or if you're looking to listen live to either the Friday morning or afternoon podcast or the Sunday evening podcast, you'll be able to hear recorded stuff prior to that, but you won't hear anything live those particular days.
Right.
So that's it for our announcements.
So I will not be talking to you next Sunday, right? No. But I will talk to you in 2 weeks from now.
Right? Yeah. Which will give us, another week, an extra week to, take until the last minute to come up with the next topic, because that's what we do.
Hey, I wonder if you have any listeners who would like to call in and suggest a topic.
Hey, we've never tried that. We should try that. Yeah, I mean, we'll either call in or if you're listening as a recorded podcast, send a message. If there's a particular topic you want us to talk, that's a great idea. Why haven't we done that before? Because that way we're actually tapping into a topic that, at least one and probably more listeners would like to hear about. And chances are good. If one listener comes up with it, chances are really good there are other listeners who are going to want to hear it too. Because that's the nature of topics related to the law of attraction. But great idea. Thank you. That was really good. I got to start incorporating that regularly. That's a very good idea.
You're welcome. Yeah. Because I never know what to talk about, and sometimes topics suggest themselves. But
a lot of the time.
A lot of times they just don't.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Like I said before the podcast, on a day like this where nothing had really come to me, I just go to Joel's timeline, Joel Elston. Because he shares all these topics and memes and ideas and thoughts for the day and so forth. And all I have to do is go through about 4 or 5 of them. I find something. So there's never a lack. I can always find something to talk about.
Right. But hopefully the person who suggests a particular topic will be listening in when that topic is actually discussed.
That's a good point. Actually, here's the way we can handle that. If someone decides they want to contact us and give us a topic idea, tell us when you tend to listen most. What shows do you listen to? Because
there you go.
Just look at the schedule, and there are 11 shows a week normally, and just pick the one or more than one that you listen to the most, and include that in your note, saying, "Well, I listen to the Sunday night podcast. I'd love to have this question answered on the Sunday night podcast." You do that, I promise you, that's when I'll bring up the question, guaranteed. Absolutely,
that's right.
Money in the bank.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to do it. Yeah, I like that. Because I know, and some people probably don't have particular times when they listen. I know I tend to listen at random times when I can listen. When a lot of times when I'm cooking, I'll put a podcast on. A lot of times I can't listen at 8 o'clock in the morning or in the afternoon. During those times, I just can't. I'm not available to listen. I'm in a meeting or whatever. Mm-hmm. Right. So I usually listen to them after they're already done.
Most people do. I mean, if I had to put a number to it, I would say 99% of our listeners listen to the recorded version rather than the live version, which is great. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But just tell us which ones you like to listen to. That's all. Because that's the one thing I do know. I mean, there are some people, for instance, the only one they listen to is when I do it with Joel on Thursdays. They don't necessarily listen to us live on Thursday, but that's the one they always look for. They look for the one that I do with Joel.
I like listening to Joel's too.
Oh, yeah. I like listening to Joel too. That's why I do the podcast with him. I mean, I've been doing it for years now, and I still pick up stuff from him. It's just amazing. He is like a wealth of information. I mean, it's like with Abraham. I mean, Abraham tells you when you go to a workshop that we'll be glad to answer all of your questions. Just understand that the answer is always going to be the same. And they make little jokes like that, but it's true. And with Joel, it's the same thing. The answer is always the same. He always has the same basic viewpoint, but the stuff that comes up, the stories and the tidbits of information, things he picked up in his life, just amazing. He is just it's like an unending well of information and knowledge and great stuff. Just really great stuff.
And inspiration. For me, I'm very inspired by how much he's always learning, taking new classes, new courses, how much he's giving to all of his kids, his boys. He's just so inspiring for me. It really motivates me to do better and try harder and do more.
Yeah, he's often asked by friends of his why it is he keeps taking courses and doing all this stuff and constantly on the go and so forth. And his answer is because he likes it. He just likes doing all that stuff. He likes having this, endless schedule of things, all kinds of stuff in his life packed in addition to raising his adopted son and doing the gym work and doing the podcast and doing radio appearances and giving talks at local groups. And I mean, he's like this endless, he's the ever ready bunny. He's the bunny that never winds down.
There you go. He's the ever ready bunny.
So if you ever want to know how to run your day, just follow the Joel method. No matter how much you have on your plate, just follow the Joel method. Because the Joel method is every single thing that happens in his day is wonderful. And that's all you have to do. You have to adopt that mindset, right? That's how you control your day.
That's right. That's right. Just keep putting stuff in it and keep saying it's going to get better and just make it happen.
Now, keep saying it better. That makes me think of something that I don't think I've talked about with you yet. Do you do affirmations? I mean, we've talked about affirmations with the other co-hosts, but
I do.
You do. Affirmations are big for you.
I wouldn't say they're big, but I do them. I have a particular one that I say quite often, and so I told you that I have a little calendar on my table.
Right.
And it's actually from Louise Hay.
Okay.
And so, let's see what it says for today. Today it says, I am always at the right place at the right time, doing just the right thing. There is no wrong in my life.
Oh, nice.
Well, yeah, so I have these statements all over my house. I have, let's see, there's about 12 in my kitchen, on my kitchen wall there. And then inside my kitchen cabinets, I have a couple of them. When I open them up from where my vitamins are, it says, I awaken each morning feeling prosperous and abundantly blessed. And then there's another one that says, I trust my intuition. I am willing to listen to that still small voice inside. And I have these things all over my house wall. You would laugh if you saw my house. I have them in my bathroom, at the wall in the bathroom. I have about 12 there.
Wow.
And I have them in my upstairs bathroom. So when you say, do I do affirmations?
Yeah.
I read them all day long. I don't do them necessarily say one statement over and over and over and over and over again. Although there is one particular statement that I do that with. It's just one particular statement. All the other ones, I just sort of read and I think about it in that moment. I think about that, and it helps me to stay positively focused.
That's pretty good, actually, because when I think about doing similar kinds of things, I have a tendency to put stuff on the wall and then not look at it. But you're describing how you'll go through your day and you'll actually read, the stuff as you're going by. That's pretty good because I tend to blank it out.
Well, yeah, but see, I think I have an intention in my, I've just programmed myself intentionally to read them because it is so easy to ignore them. But I make an intention to read them because I know that they're going to help me stay in alignment, stay positively focused. So I kind of not force myself, but I encourage myself to read them.
You have a positive relationship with them, like they're your friends or something.
Exactly. They're like a little friend sitting on my shoulder to remind me to think positive thoughts. And and that's another thing is I talk to my spirit guide, and I ask her to remind me of certain things. Like before I leave the house, I actually have a sticky on my front door. It says "Ask Gail" because Gail's the name of my spirit guide.
Oh.
And so I'll say before I leave the house, I'll say, Gail, is there anything else I need to bring? And she'll tell me.
Oh, that's nice.
And so that's another one of the positive things that I think that I feel like throughout the day is that I feel like she's with me. And so number one, I'm not alone. And number two, she helps me with various things to look at something or to go get something. So that's another sort of positive aspect I think that I put into my life.
So Gail is, in addition to your spirit guide, she's kind of like a built-in alternative day planner. I mean, because you put in your day planner the things you don't want to forget, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, that's right.
So, Gail, what do I have on at 3:00 today?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. So
I got to ask you,
and they're fun.
because I've asked other co-hosts too who have direct connection with inner being and so forth. You have a name, and you apparently have regular communication. How does your communication evidence itself? I mean, are you hearing conversation? Are you getting images? How does it work for you?
No, just sort of mental thoughts that like a word will come into my head. Actually, there's two ways. So that's the first way is a thought will come into my head. Oh, your book is on your desk or something like that. Especially when I'm getting ready to leave the house and she'll remind me of what I have to bring or do something or sometimes go someplace, that thought will just come into my head. The other thing that I've noticed is that sometimes my eyes will be drawn to something and I won't know why I'm looking at that thing or what the significance is of that thing sometimes. But all of a sudden, if I'm really in tune, I'll find myself noticing something and I have to just stop and pause. And then I ask like, okay, what about that? And then usually an answer will come like you have to bring that with you today, or you need to give that to your mom, or a lot of times it's like you need to bring that with you, or you need to take that with you.
And is it something where you don't always know why you're doing it?
Yeah. Yep. And then later on, the answer will reveal itself.
Isn't that a little bit spooky?
It is very spooky. Yes. It is very spooky. Yes. Yes. If we had more time, I would tell you a story about a spooky situation like that happened once, but I don't think we have time right now.
Well, we got a couple minutes. It depends on how long the story is, I guess, but.
Yeah, it's let's see, how much time do we have?
I got about, if you can do it in about a minute and a half, we're good.
Nah, it takes longer than that.
Okay.
So we'll leave it for another time.
well, then I'll just ask you this. Who named Gail? Did you name Gail, or is that a name that Gail gave you that,
No.
call me Gail?
No, I said, what's your name? And the name that came was Gail. It just, pops into your head.
Okay. I don't know. I have not gotten to the stage yet where I have that kind of communication. I can get little tidbits every now and then, but I'm still in kindergarten. I haven't really gotten to the point where that many of you guys are at.
Well, let me ask you, have you ever asked your spirit guide what their name is?
I have not done that. No, I should try that.
You've got nothing to lose.
That's true. Except my sanity. No, I'm kidding. No, I'll try that.
You've got nothing to lose. Try it. And
okay.
If you don't get an answer, well, then you just don't get an answer. But I guarantee you, I mean, I can't really guarantee you this because how are you going to prove it? But I would bet you dollars to donuts that you have a spirit guide and they are there at your beck and call 24/7.
I have been told I have many of them, actually. In fact, I've been told it's rather crowded in that room or that space, so to speak.
So you might have to ask, what are your names? Or you might have to do it one by one. I don't know. But at least start with one.
Okay.
Ask one.
I'll give it a shot. And I'll get 15 answers and I won't know which one it is and I'll give up. No, I won't do that. Well, the main thing is we've explored how to take control of our day, and that was our mission for the day. So we have met our mission, and it's been great. And I'm only sorry that we won't be able to do it again next week, but I look forward to talking to you again in 2 weeks.
Yes, me too. I look forward to talking to you, and I really appreciate you having me on, and it's a lot of fun. And
it is fun.
Educational, too.
And we hope that you'll keep having fun and be educational and keep joining us every time that we do this show here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.